Good evening. I'd like to convene this regular meeting of the City Council as 6:15. Would you please join with me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is the agenda. Councilor Nodell.
President Wright, I move to amend and adopt our agenda as follows. First, to note written material for agenda item 5.02, a presentation by John Tashiro, General Manager of City Market, regarding annual impact presentation. Note 9 additional written documents for agenda item 5.03, which is the resolution for authorization to execute closing documents for sale of Burlington Telecom to Champlain Broadband LLC per City Attorney Blackwood. Remove from the agenda item 5.04, communication Eileen Blackwood, City Attorney, regarding approval of settlement of fire grievance per CAO Anderson.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Nodell, seconded by Councilor Busher. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the agenda as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have our agenda. Item number 2 is a communication from Eileen Blackwood, City Attorney, and Ralphine O'Rourke from Primer and Piper regarding BT sale. Expected executive session. City Attorney Blackwood.
Yes, we are going to cover a couple of matters in this executive session. You're going to obtain, so the finding that we would like is that to go into executive session to receive legal advice and also to review a document that is still in negotiation, so it is a contract matter. Premature disclosure of which would put the city at a disadvantage.
Thank you. Recognize Councilor Mason.
Thank you, President Wright. I'd like to make a motion for a finding as articulated by the City Attorney Blackwood.
Councilor Mason has moved the findings, seconded by Councilor Roof. All those in favor of the findings, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Councilor Mason on the...
Thank you, President Wright. Based on the finding, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session, noting, I was going to call him CAO, Brian Lowe, Eileen Blackwood, Beth Anderson, Jordan, and then outside counsel present as well.
Moved by Councilor Mason, seconded by Councilor Roof. All those in favor of going into the motion to go into executive session, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously, and we will clear the room and move into executive session. We are going to reconvene the regular meeting of the City Council now, coming out of executive session. We're back, and we will resume the City Council meeting. Could councilors please take their seats? Item number 3, and the public has just come in. If anyone wants to, we're going to be going to the public forum, so if anybody wants to speak in public forum, please fill out the form over here in the corner table and bring it over to the clerk's office here. So we are back on item number 3, which is the public forum. Does anybody want to speak in public forum? Going once? Going twice? All right, we are closing the public forum. And item number 4 is the consent agenda. Councilor Nodell.
President Wright, I move that we adopt the consent agenda as amended and take the actions as indicated.
Councilor Nodell has moved the consent agenda, seconded by Councilor Roof. All those in favor of passage of the consent agenda and taking the actions indicated, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have passed the consent agenda. We move on to item 5.01, and that is a communication from Mayor Weinberger regarding appointment of Assistant City Attorney. Mayor Weinberger.
Almost there with you, President Wright. Just having a little technical issue here with the board docs. Apologize. Okay. President Wright, I'm happy to bring to you tonight the appointment of Joy Hovestad to be the newest member of the city attorney team as an assistant city attorney. Joy comes to us by way of Vermont Law School and then clerkship with Judge Michael Moses in Billings, Montana. She is currently finishing that clerkship, and that is part of the reason she can't be here with us in person tonight. But she has gone through an extensive vetting process and is the recommendation of the city attorney's office and myself after having met with her. I think she'll be a great addition to the city attorney team and hope she'll get a strong support tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do motion from Councilor Mason?
Thank you, President Wright. I'd like to make a motion to confirm the appointment of Joy Hovestad as the Assistant City Attorney.
Seconded by Councilor Paul.
She's in Montana.
Okay. All right. The motion has been made. Is there any discussion? Councilor Hartnett?
I was just wondering on the application that you were sent out to us that it did mention some employer that she didn't want contacted. I know we can't talk about that. It's a personnel matter, but I was wondering if the city had saw that and wondered if it was discussed at all or what explanation might be given that you could give us in regards to that.
We did not ask for an explanation of that. It was significant, given the length of her work life. It was a while ago. It was pre-law school, and we didn't see it as significant. There are lots of reasons, often involving claims of harassment and things like that for people's not wanting us to talk, so that we generally don't ask that unless it's a very recent issue.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Hartnett. Any further discussion on this appointment? Hearing none, all those in favor of this appointment of the Assistant City Attorney, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. And we have confirmed that appointment of the Assistant City Attorney. 5.02 is a presentation from the General Manager of City Market, John Teixeira. Good evening. Thanks for being here. Always look forward to seeing you,
Likewise as well.
especially since we always get a little bag.
Second only to Sandy Wen.
You can begin while if you want to start, you can begin while the bags are passed out. Thank you.
Well, good evening, city councilors and mayor.
Thank you.
I don't necessarily want to make this such a party atmosphere, but as tradition goes, it's always a pleasure to be in front of you. My name is John Teixeira. I'm the general manager at City Market and River Co-op. And as what has become really an annual tradition, I'm really here to share with you our performance of the co-op over our last fiscal year, which would be fiscal year 2018. And so to your left is our presentation. I'd like to go through the presentation, certainly wanting to take questions along the way as well. So why are we presenting here today? As I mentioned, I think this has become an annual tradition. It really started when we had a land lease agreement with the city, and as part of that requirement, that the general manager would be reporting to City Council about our performance, and certainly in terms of our commitment to the community. From the co-op standpoint, we are really and continue to be committed to meet the city's needs in its entirety. That includes low to moderate income, disabled and elderly residents, certainly the supporting of our local products and our local nonprofits, and also carrying a wide variety of products that provide options for really the entire community at large, from conventional products to local and organic. For our performance in 2018, we actually exceeded our sales forecast, which was very positive to see, considering we had just expanded into the South End. And I specifically wanted to really make mention of city councilors in the South End, City Councilor Shannon and City Councilor Mason, who were extremely supportive of our efforts there to certainly connect with the community, and to all of the other city councilors as part of that effort. We really went to all the MPA meetings, and at least 6 to Ward 5, to keep the community updated in terms of our progress. So it's with great pleasure that I share with you that having exceeded from a sales standpoint was great news for us. As you can imagine, for a co-op that has just gone through expansion, it's very much a very nervous time, and it's very rare, especially being the largest expansion project that a co-op has ever taken on in the entire country, to actually have not only met, but exceeded our sales forecast. And for your reference, for financial year 19, we are anticipating and on schedule to meet our sales target of about 52 million. In terms of our sales to members, another key indicator for us, it's a great representation of whether or not we are truly delivering and serving our members. So having sales contribution of members at 68%, also a very positive indicator. Certainly local products, the way we define local is those products that are produced or predominantly manufactured here in Vermont. That's not necessarily the definition for local by all co-ops, but because we are so centrally located, we are able to provide that definition. And once again, with 40% of our sales making up made up of local products is something that we're very proud of. And certainly at this point, we have over 13,000 members in the community, predominantly in Burlington, but certainly in Greater Burlington, across Chittenden County, and we hope to continue to grow those numbers. In terms of our employees, we also had quite a significant rise. With expansion, we increased our employee count by about 100. So we're up to about 330 employees across both the downtown and the south end locations, of which the majority is full-time. That model is very rare in the food retail industry. Many traditional food retailers actually have that model flipped, where they try to keep labor low. We very much take a very different approach in co-ops in general. We really believe in continuity with our staff. And as part of that, we have members and customers who specifically come in on certain days because there are certain staff people who are working there who are better acquainted and familiar with those member and those customer needs. And as you can see, 62% of our staff live in Burlington. So when we had things like the winter storm, 2 storms ago, when there was anywhere from 18 to 24 inches of snow, most food retailers, you can imagine, were closed. For us, the idea was, how do we stay open at normal working hours? And so we were open at 7 a.m. in both stores. In the downtown, we closed at 11 that day, 11 p.m., and then in the south end at 9 p.m. And we had about 60 calls from members asking us if we were open. For us, it's beyond just making sure that we run a good business, but really how we serve the community. And our staff, I can't say enough about our staff. They work so hard, so committed. It is really amazing to see. Certainly in terms of our employees, we look at compensation in a very holistic way. I know there's a lot of talk around the $15 minimum wage. We recognize that we need to continue to improve in that area, but we also want to look at the other benefits we provide, and certainly around health care and such. So once again, this is just a quick snapshot of all the benefits that we provide. And we will continue to make efforts to improve on this. In terms of the support for the community, once again, as I spoke earlier, a key part of our mission is really how do we provide access and availability of healthy products to those that really need it most. And so this chart to me is very critical in terms of how we serve the community who are funded in some way around programs such as Three Squares Vermont or WIC. And so as you can see, those numbers since and the last 3 years have continued to grow after we had an initial dip. And if you wonder why that dip might have happened, that was really driven primarily by a lot of grants and funding starting to dry up across the country. And back in 2016, we noticed that declining trend. We actually conducted focus groups with our customers and members who are on Three Squares Vermont and WIC or EWIC now, to understand how we could better serve them. One of the things that we have offered now is that in addition to the 10% that they receive on all their purchases at the co-op, excluding beer and wine, we've actually added an additional 5% for any purchases for produce and for our bulk items. Once again, because we recognize that there are a lot of local and organic and healthy products that can be offered in those two departments. And we've certainly seen some growth in those areas. Food for All members, once again, those members that struggle economically to have access to healthy food. You can see the member sales in general growing. Once again, you can see the impact of some of the focus group results that we have seen. But we are by far not done with continuing to increase the contribution of our Food for All members. They make up about 10% of our membership of 13,000, so approximately a little under 1,300. And we'd like to really see that portion continue to grow. In terms of member work, hopefully if you are members, you are aware that if you volunteer more than 4 hours a month, you receive a 7% discount on all your purchases at the co-op excluding beer and wine. If you volunteer more than 8 hours a month, you receive a 12% discount on all your purchases at the co-op, excluding beer and wine. And you can stack the volunteer hours. So if you want to do all 48 hours or all 96 hours in 1 month, you can, and you can continue to top it off, and that discount percentage would remain for the full 12 months. We believe volunteering is extremely important, not only because it helps certainly our nonprofits. As you can see listed there to the right, 95% of the volunteer work is taking place at those 24 plus 9 nonprofits. We do all the orientations within each of our locations, and we work with the nonprofits to find out what types of roles that those member volunteers can conduct. And for us, as you see, between 2017 and 18, we've seen a significant growth, primarily driven because of the increase in members with the opening of our South End store. The other benefit is for our members, they can see really what is happening in the community. There is so much, as all of you as public servants know, happening in the community. This is once again another opportunity for our members to see the wonderful work that our nonprofits do. And it was just this morning that the mayor and Secretary Tebbetts attended and said some inspiring words for an event we had called the Seedling Grant Program. It's essentially an opportunity for various nonprofits to seek funds to help address food insecurity, to help strengthen the local food system. We were able to give funds in total of $30,000 to 7 organizations for work that they will be doing to address those 2 issues. And once again, that in combination with the work that we do with these nonprofits here remains really core to our mission as a co-op. The other side of something that really through your generosity and members and customers' generosity is our Rally for Change program. Those nickels, dimes, quarters, where our cashiers ask when you come and purchase products at the co-op whether or not you'd be willing to round up, they add up to quite a significant amount of money. As you may know, our Rally for Change program has 3 nonprofit partners that we select every month, of which one is a constant partner, the Chittenden Emergency Food Shelf. They are a 50% partner for the month, and that is consistent throughout the year. The other 2 partners are 40% partners, bless you, a 10% partner. Those 2 nonprofits rotate every month. And so you can see in one 12-month period, we give, through your generosity as a vehicle, in FY18, $200,000 to support the work of the Emergency Food Shelf. A tremendous amount of money for an organization that does a tremendous amount of work. The other remaining $200,000 is divided amongst those nonprofits that are selected each month. So once again, our way to say, thank you really for our members, our customers, to all of you who've been so generous in rallying up and allowing us to be that vehicle to support the community. Another exciting opportunity, and I look forward to it every year, is our annual Cots tree sale. Hopefully you might have bought a tree from the co-op this last December. It's become an annual tradition in partnership with Cots for the last 21 years. We sell about 660 trees, and it takes about 7 days to sell out. We've only done it in the downtown. We are thinking about it, possibly in the South End in future. But once again, a wonderful partnership we have with Cots for the great work they do that allows us to give all of the profits to Cots, which added up to a little over $10,000 this winter. So once again, just to make you aware of that work, and this year we also work closely with the Intervale Center. For every tree that was bought, the Intervale Center planted a tree. Once again, it's part of our efforts around our environmental practices to make sure that we can also leave this planet better than we left it. I mentioned earlier about the Seedling grant and once again, we just had that ceremony this morning, and we hope to continue this. One of the things to note is in past, when we had a patronage refund because we were profitable, which you may know that at this point the co-op is not profitable, and for the next 3 years we still anticipate, because of the significant debt we took on with the South End store, that we won't be profitable, but this is something that we had planned. We didn't want to stop this program. We felt it was too important, so we tied it into one of our Rally for Change partners slots throughout the year, and that's the way that we are funding it. And next year, we actually intend to raise that funding to $40,000. We just announced that at the ceremony today, so those grant applications are open for submission as of earlier this morning. In terms of the local economy, once again, our focus on local remains. We offer over 2,800 Vermont products, local products. They made up, once again, 40% of our sales. And we believe in this multiplier effect. You may know that the co-op continues to also support producers and our farmers and our vendors. We have at times acted like a bank, where we have given 3-year or 5-year loans at 0% interest, only to be paid back in cash or as product in kind. And you might be wondering, well, obviously if those products are being brought into the co-op, certainly the co-op benefits, and that is indeed the case. We want to increase capacity with some of our vendors, our farmers. And they come to us because they may not necessarily feel comfortable going to a bank per se, although we do quite a bit of diligence in looking at business plans. But we also say that if they are able to sell to other retailers, we are also comfortable with that. I like to say that karmically we'll receive some benefit from that too, but overall the local economy will be strengthened and it will come back to us in some form or fashion. And that's where we hope, as we continue to really support that local economy, it's once again core to our mission. Certainly taxes and fees. As you can see, it's risen quite a bit in 2018 now that we have 2 locations. And certainly we hope that in future, as we grow, we'll continue to support the community. Sort of second to last slide, we've received a lot of recognition. I must say that probably this is our weakness. We don't like to talk about some of the recognitions we've received, but I thought it'd be good to just note for City Council and for the Mayor's reference. We've received a number of Governor's Awards, certainly the most recent one, the Excellence Award in Worksite Wellness, and how we support and cultivate our work culture. For our building, we received certainly a Design Sustainability Award. We received a couple of Best Places to Work Award the last 2 years, multiple 7 daisies. The one that I think we can be also very proud about is Best Place to Eat Alone. I think that speaks a lot in terms of people's comfort levels at the co-op. And other things such as Retail of the Year. We also received from the EPA New England an Environmental Merit Award for the cleanup work that we did on our South End site. It's something that we tend to think would be common sense, but I can say hand on heart that that site is the cleanest it will ever be. With the $1.5 million we put into it, working closely with the Department of Environmental Conservation and the state, and certainly the City of Burlington, to make sure that the site was clean, not just to build a grocery store, but for the community at large, considering its close proximity to the lake. Last but not least, certainly the South End expansion has and continues to go well. We are still settling, so we appreciate the 60+ customer comment cards we still receive weekly, which I review with a small team and get back to every single one of them. We're wanting to continue to make some upgrades to the South End. And so that's something that you will see us continue to strive to improve. I'm also in the midst of developing a vision for 2025. You can imagine that this expansion was something that the co-op had been planning for quite a while. But certainly from my standpoint, the next question is really, where do we go from here? We are an ambitious group of people who want to find ways to better serve this community. So as much as this project did take a lot of effort from everyone, I speak not just from the co-op standpoint, but from the city and our members, that there is still much more to do. So as we take a bit of a breather, it's my role to really see where then do we go from here. So I'm in the midst of developing a vision, which I will be bringing to different stakeholders, and the city is certainly a stakeholder as well, to share with you about really where I believe by 2025 we can be. And I can tell you now that it will be certainly including food, but also areas that potentially would be beyond that. The other thing is to also make you aware that we have a union at the co-op. It's a well-established union, and we have a mature relationship. We have union negotiations coming up as our contract, our 2-year contract, expires at the end of June. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. Once again, I've been involved in 2 union negotiations. We always are able to come to a very good conclusion for all parties. I oversee the entire process on behalf of all of the staff, but I just did want to make you aware of that. So with that, I know that was a very quick and swift overview of our work, and we'll certainly be open for any questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Toshiro, for that great presentation, and also for the little bags that we all got. We appreciate that. Any questions? Councilor Hartnett.
Thank you. Just in that summary, I can remember a year ago we were asking, or the last couple of years, what is it going to do to the downtown store, and you guys going to be successful? And I think you answered all those questions with that presentation. But what you need to do better is what, I know you kind of made a light reference to it, you need to tell the community what you do. It's an amazing story, and it's not told. I think people would be shocked, and the room is empty tonight, and I know we have Channel 17 here, but in general, you do need to find a better way to get the message out of what you've done for this community. And there's a long history here, right, going way back, and we still hear it sometimes, about letting them have that storefront and the whole 9 yards, right? And I mean, this is probably the biggest success story in Burlington over the last 25 years, 30 years, right? And it's untold, the things that you guys do, just amazing. So I wish you could find more ways to kind of, share your story. And I think people would really appreciate the efforts that you guys do in this community. So if you had one thing to work on for next year, when you come to us, you can tell us that you've gotten the word out there, that everybody knows how great you are. And I know that's kind of hard to do. If you need any help, let me know. I'm usually pretty good at that. But no, I think it's important. And it's amazing. It's just an unbelievable story. And for the whole state, actually, role model. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Hartnett. Councilor Paul, then Tracy and Pine.
Thanks, John. Thanks so much for being here. You are right. We do all look forward to this night, not only for the goodies, but also to hear what's always an exciting story, and would certainly second everything that Councilor Hartnett said as well. The question that I have is, as you know, the voters on last Tuesday overwhelmingly passed an advisory question on the reduction of single-use plastic. And I know I'm sure you remember about 3 years ago, you and I met when we were as a council trying to come up with a way to reduce, if not eliminate, plastic bags specifically. And that, what we were voting on Tuesday was much more encompassing, and we all noticed the straw that you have in the bag, which is great. But you were not overly enthusiastic about the idea of reducing plastic bags at City Market, and I wondered if your feelings on that have changed, and if so, how, and also if you would commit to working with us on crafting a reduction policy. Thanks.
Well, thank you for that question. So first and foremost, I guess I just want to be clear. Before I came to the co-op, I was heading up an environmental nonprofit called 1% for the Planet. So if anything about environmental issues, I'm extremely acutely aware of them. I guess to your point about plastic bag use and single bag use, it is something that we are looking into. So case in point, if you look at our produce bags, we had shifted to compostable plastic bags. And the challenge with that is to really find a compostable bag that really works in the way that our members and our customers also can be satisfied with. And we had some challenges. As much as we work closely with suppliers, we actually had to move on from a certain supplier to a different supplier, and now we have a compostable bag that is really acceptable. To the point where people have been trying to use it as a regular plastic bag and finding out that their produce is composting quicker. And so that's been an interesting challenge because we've had many members and customers come back and say, please just give us back plastic bags. And we're trying to find that balancing act. But I will say that one of the areas that we certainly need to improve on is around our packaging. We have been making some efforts, and certainly with being the first food retailer in Vermont to have a transcritical CO2 refrigeration system, which in a very simplistic way is to say that a refrigeration system that is powered by CO2 versus a traditional refrigeration system that uses HFC, hydrofluorocarbons, which is about 1,000 times more potent than CO2. And the reason why that's important is because food retailers typically use up 50% of their electricity through their refrigeration units, and refrigeration units over time become less efficient. They essentially leak. They leak gas, and if they're using HFC, they leak that HFC gas, which is so much more potent than CO2. So we made the investment as the first in Vermont in the South End store to invest in a transcritical CO2 system, which costs about 40% more. The piping structure is also much more complex, and the payback is a very long payback. But and there was no doubt in our minds to invest in it because ultimately we want to set a precedent to, one, be better for the planet, because if it leaks CO2, so it's 1,000 times less potent, but also for other retailers to follow. And there are other things that we've been doing. 40% of our waste is compostable, 40% is recyclable, and 20% is now landfill. We have improved those numbers over the years, and we will continue to do so. And the next area of focus is around looking at our bags. And so right now I've commissioned our team to look at certainly the use of our bags and our packaging overall, but also look at our practice across the store, because what we, and you may recall, Councilor Paul, at the time, it wasn't as if we were less enthusiastic. It was we really were pushing the recycling of film plastic, which is what products delivered to the store are wrapped in. It is one of the most impactful areas on the environment that food retailers experience. So we wanted to really put our efforts there. And unfortunately, it's an area that doesn't seem to get as much traction or as excitement because it's very much behind the scenes, but it actually is the most impactful. And so that's where I wanted to really put our focus. But I also understand that time is short to really make the impact on the planet. And so we are currently looking into everything from how do we reduce our packaging, and certainly in the form of plastic bags. And we have Earth Day coming up April 22nd, and certainly we have Earth Week. The bags that we've given you are obviously, we gave out about 15 to 20,000 bags for free last year, so people can reuse for their shopping. And we hope to continue to do that in future too.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Paul. Councilor Tracy, then Councilor Pine, Councilor Shannon.
Thank you very much for your presentation, very much appreciated, as well as the bag of nice stuff. I just wanted to ask about the Vision 2025 piece. Does that mean that you're going to be looking to that you wouldn't be looking towards expansion until 2025? And then, or is that really just trying to set a vision for having things in place by 2025? I'm thinking of it specifically about what that might mean for the Old North End, because concurrent to the development of the South End store, you had held a lease on North Winooski and had since given that up. And sort of as that process unfolded, I heard from some folks who were concerned about the impacts that would have on local grocers in the Old North End, but then from other folks who were excited and then ultimately disappointed that you chose to not go that route. So I'm just wanting to know a little bit more about that visioning process, and particularly what it could mean for the Old North End.
So the Vision 2025 effort is around just wanting to provide a bit of a roadmap in terms of where I believe the co-op can be by 2025. So it isn't by any means to say that we would not look at expanding our services, whether that be in a bricks and mortar from a location standpoint or any other initiative. I think in past, as the co-op has grown, we've really sort of grown organically. And certainly the South End store project had been in the works for a very long time. But I think we're at a point where we want to be a bit clearer in terms of really where we're heading to. And we are certainly grounded in our mission. But I feel that it would be really important for us, especially as our membership has grown, certainly as our business becomes a little more complex, to really say, this is where we believe we can be in 2025, and as part of that, as we take those steps, this is how they fit into that journey, rather than to say, we're going to be opening up another location. And I know that there are other retailers out there that make announcements about opening up locations. I just think there should be a bigger picture, long-term view. And then from that, whatever things that we do, people can see and members can see and the community can see how they tie into that plan. Specific to the Old North End, it's certainly an area that we know our roots, our history are from the Old North End. We certainly want to continue to serve the Old North End, so I would just say stay tuned in terms of how we do that. We don't have anything specifically in mind at this point, but ultimately we do want to serve the Burlington community and the greater Burlington community in the best way possible.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Tracy. Councilor Pine, then Councilor Shannon.
Thanks, John. That was a great presentation. And the work that the co-op does around supporting local farmers, local ag, and producers of all types is remarkable. The family wage jobs, I think, is critical, and deep and continued enduring support for other really critical nonprofit community organizations is pretty amazing. I'd like you to just to touch on the one of those principles of the cooperative principles around cooperation among cooperatives, because I think we have a pretty thriving co-op sector, but I don't always get the sense that there's as much of the cooperation among cooperatives supporting, growth and expansion of democratic control and understanding of what that means to be a democratic organization by design, not just by accident. So what are you doing, and what could you do more to support some of the local co-ops, whether it's housing or consumer co-ops or worker co-ops or whatever?
So what a wonderful question. So you can see that as we think about Vision 2025, really growing the local cooperative economy is going to be a key part of that. And to your point, principle number 6 is cooperating among co-ops. So some of the work that we have done include everything from supporting other food co-ops within the state of Vermont, but also across the region, the New England region in New York, whether it be supporting Brattleboro Food Co-op. We had actually made a loan to them many years ago, an additional loan. They were going through some hard times at a very low interest, once again, because as co-ops, we want to support other co-ops. Another example here, when we look at our cash machines in the downtown store and the South End store, we were approached from a number of other banks to see if we would consider, especially for the South End, a cash machine that would be in their name. We ended up going with Vermont Federal Credit Union. As all of you hopefully know, credit unions are all co-ops. There was no doubt in our mind, even if their fees weren't necessarily as competitive as the others, that we wanted to support co-ops. Also, when we look at the Intervale Farm Cooperative Farm, that's also an initiative that we have supported throughout the years. And then also, even we look across the region, in the last 2 years, we supported the opening of a co-op in East Aurora, New York. once again because we want to also support co-ops in the region. We put together a loan that would guarantee a bank loan for them among 7 other co-ops, which took about 7 minutes to raise a guarantee for about $250,000. So we do that work really with the intention to really walk the talk. There is still more work to do, and as you talk about things such as housing and worker co-ops, that is an area that we are exploring as part of this vision because, to your point, I think the work we do around food continues to be core and important to us. But we also recognize some of the community needs, and certainly within the Burlington and greater Burlington area. And we feel that we can, not necessarily in the same way, approach it as we have with, let's say, building a South End store, but partnering, creating some strategic partnerships where we can bring some expertise. We can certainly bring in the food into the mix, and then seeing how we can be more impactful and collaborative in our approach, rather than to just take on a project in full. And that's part of really some of the vision work that I'm developing that we'd like to take forward, because we recognize that we don't have the expertise in some other areas, but in partnership with others, we could potentially bring some things to fruition in a way that maybe hasn't been envisioned before.
I just have one quick one. Is we have a lot of little corner stores, and we still have some. We're just losing one in my neighborhood in the Old North End on the corner of North Avenue and North Street. The owners had a tough time recruiting and retaining staff and actually turning a profit. And it's just an idea to see whether you guys know how to run stores. You know how to do that. Now, these little ones are different, but whether there's some technical assistance that you could provide to small operators to help them be able to turn a profit so they can serve their community and their neighborhood. I don't know if that's realistic, but it just seems like you all have the expertise. Perhaps sharing it with folks who could use that would be.
Yep. I mean, we would be very open to it. I would encourage if the store would like to reach out to me. We've actually done that work in other places. You might remember about 2 years ago, we actually helped a store out in Jericho, Richmond area, a country store. They had wanted to actually become a co-op. They sought advice for us. We gave them advice. I think there was some ambition that they had that I think, in hindsight, could have been sort of rethought through, and we cautioned them because the food retail business, as many know, it's a very, very tight margin business. We're talking about 1% to 2% bottom line profit after you take away all the costs of goods and labor and such. And so when you don't have a certain amount of scale, as much as we are certainly a larger player in the community, we are certainly no Hannaford's or Shaw's or Price Chopper and such. And so we have worked with local businesses, local retailers. We have actually volunteered time. In that case, we actually had staff work in their store to help for a period of time to show an expertise. And unfortunately, we couldn't help that in the end. But if there are local businesses that are wanting to seek some support, we've also looked at partnering with entities like that, because for us, local business includes local retailers. So I would encourage them to reach out to me, but your point is well taken.
Thank you, Councilor Pine. Councilor Shannon.
Thank you. Thank you very much, John. And I always tell anybody who wants to embark on a major project, I always refer them to you, and I hope that hasn't taken too much of your time, because you were masterful in how you approached getting the South End store built. It was a pretty dramatic change for neighbors. We did allow that zoning, and I think everyone appreciates the way that you worked with neighbors with great sincerity and making real changes to the design of the store so that it would work for neighbors. I will note that I get questions about why on earth don't we pave Briggs, and it looks like landmines have gone off all over that street. And so I'm not going to ask you that question, but rather, because we know what the answer is, but share with the public that was a concession that was made to neighbors who were taking on, with the zoning change, taking on a lot more traffic than they ever had before, and Briggs was not paved purposely to deter traffic from using those neighborhood streets. We wanted them to stay on the main arteries, and the entrance was changed to accommodate that as well, which is a very significant concession for City Market. It's not ideal, but it needed to be done because the store was getting built before the connector, and those things will change as the connector comes in. People will see changes there. And I think the neighbors continue to be grateful, while some who are driving there from outside the direct neighborhood are a little baffled by the situation. What you had mentioned about plastics, I think that is exactly right, and it's what we have heard from Chittenden Solid Waste, that our biggest plastics problem is the plastic film, that I understand the pallets are all wrapped in this tremendous amount of plastic film. And while it's a bigger problem, I think we do still want to deal with the consumer side as well. But if you did, I don't know if anybody is dealing with that plastic film better than we are here in Vermont, but it is a conversation that I'm interested in having. If you have any ideas with your environmental background, I don't think we should, we should not ignore that problem while we're addressing the other. So thank you for raising it.
Thank you, Councilor Shannon. Councilor Busher for the final, Councilor Jang. Councilor Busher and then Jang, and then we're going to wrap this up.
Thank you. You're such a success story, but one thing that I didn't really see, I saw the donations and that you make to various agencies and how you help people that are in need, but could you just speak briefly to the affordability of products? In the past, there has been a page on, your comparison with milk and cereal, et cetera, and I just wanted to know if you were someone who wasn't in a category that qualified for assistance, but still had limited access to funds, are you competitive? Are you affordable?
Yes.
Excuse me.
Thank you for that question. It's a question that we are often asked, so it's one that I'm very well versed in. So there is this perception that the co-op is expensive, and I won't be sitting here telling you that it isn't, in the sense that we offer a variety of products at different price points. So we offer products that are certainly what we call basic, and we actually have a line, what we call an everyday low price program called Co-op Basics, and you can really notice them in the store. We consciously did that because the tags actually stick out of the shelves. And we have over 330 different, what we call SKU units of different everyday, low price, basic products that people would seek. And so that is really at the basic level. Then we have our good products, then we have our what we call special occasion products or best products. So we offer the three ranges. Another thing we also do, and actually one of my colleagues, Claire, is here and she will know it well, is we do price comparisons with many of the retailers in the area. And as part of our policy, something that I report to the board on is that we always aim to be within 10% from a price range standpoint on our basic items. So we look at anywhere from 40 plus items. So your milks, your butters, your breads, your basic meats and such, eggs, to make sure that we are falling within that 10%. And many a times we are hovering around maybe 5 to 6%. On some products we're actually even better. Interesting fact, I'm sure that many of you have had Cabot cheese. When we were a one-store co-op, we actually sold more Cabot cheese than any single store location of any chain or local store anywhere in the world. Now, having lived in Asia, having lived in Europe, and also traveled to Latin America, I can tell you that Cabot cheese isn't necessarily available in those three continents or Africa, but we were the highest selling Cabot sales store as a single location anywhere in this country. And it's baffling to the Cabot folks. But then when you hear members and customers, because our cashiers, I'll talk to them and I'll mention this, and they're like, John, we can see that. Why? Because the member just bought 70 bars of the rectangular mild cheddar cheese just the other day. And they're going to be coming back for more. So now as a two-store co-op, we still have to connect the Cabot folks who are celebrating their 100th year anniversary this year. And they are a co-op,
Yes, I know.
as we all know, to see how we're doing as a two-store co-op. But from our standpoint, we do those price comparisons, and many a times we have product and price points that are even better than the competitor. But we understand the impression that people might have because we do offer those different tiers. And we hope to continue to expand on the co-op basic products.
That's great.
As Councilor Hartnett said about the message, your message, and I think that the affordability question still obviously resonates for me, and I think whatever we can do to try to make people understand that there are things that people can afford to buy at the co-op would be really good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Busher. Okay, final question from Councilor Jang.
Yes, so I will start with a comment. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your commitment to the community. I feel like sometimes that whatever the city of Burlington can't do, City Market can do it, can achieve it. I can give you two examples. One of them is we currently talking about safe injection sites, basically. And I feel like that you have created that concept a long time ago, because every bathroom at City Market you'll see where people can put their needles, which is kind of a health type of thing. Let's consider it that way. We also been talking about the mural project here. Everybody loves a parade mural. But you guys, with your new store, you created a wonderful mural that is highly inclusive, and everyone can see themselves when they enter the City Market. And just recently, just today, one of your staff, Dafrose, she works only 30 hours a week. 30. And when I was saying, hey, we have a full-time, you interested? She's no. I'm like, why? Because City Market, I love it there. They make me feel welcome. I'm part of the home, and I'm flexible too. I think the pay also is wonderful, is incredible. But you definitely doing incredible. You committed to the community. We all here are city councilors. We're not getting paid. And when you get out of here, we have commissions, we have NPAs, we have all of those people, not councilors. But how do we make sure that those folks who volunteer to make the city as great as it can be can have access to your 20 hours volunteering service at least per year? Is that possible? Can we put a pledge for you to make it happen next year maybe? Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Councilor Jang. And with that, thank you, Mr. Toshiro, for that presentation. And thank you for the bags. And we always appreciate hearing you come before us and give us an update on the co-op. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, I am going to recess the regular city council meeting at 8:26 and convene the Liquor Control Commission. First item on the agenda is the agenda. Commissioner Dean.
Thank you, Commissioner Wright. I would make a motion that we adopt the agenda.
Moved by Commissioner Dean and seconded by Commissioner Roof. Any discussion? All those in favor of adopting the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have the agenda. Item number 2 is the consent agenda. Commissioner Dean.
Thank you, Commissioner Wright. I move that we adopt the consent agenda, taking the actions as indicated.
Motion made by Commissioner Dean and seconded by Commissioner Roof. Any discussion? All those in favor of adopting the consent agenda and taking the actions indicated, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously.
Move that we adjourn.
Adjournment moved by Commissioner Dean and seconded by Commissioner Roof. All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have adjourned and dealt with the Liquor Control Commission, and I will reconvene the regular city council meeting at 8:27. And we are on to item 5.03, which is resolution authorization to execute closing documents for sale of Burlington Telecom to Champlain Broadband. Mr. Mayor.
President Wright, did you, I think at this point it might be appropriate to suspend the city council meeting and reconvene the Board of Finance meeting?
I have a recommendation.
Do we still need to do that? Councilor Busher,
May I,
you may.
President Wright, may I address that?
You may.
As a member of the Board of Finance?
I thought you were going to.
Okay, so may I speak directly to the mayor?
You
Or-
may
yeah, I
speak
can
through me to the mayor.
Okay, well, this is so weird. So, President Wright, Mr. Mayor, based on the executive session that we had with the full council and where we got to at the end of that executive session, I do not feel the need to have the Board of Finance make a recommendation to the full body. I think the full body should just act based on the executive session that was had.
And thank you, Councilor Busher, and I agree with that unless City Attorney Blackwood would say something different.
I think that's fine. The mayor just needs to remember that he then needs to call together and adjourn the Board of Finance, but it could wait till after the city council meeting, given that.
Okay. I'm going to look to Councilor Nodell for motion.
Yes, I would waive the reading and move adoption of this resolution relating to authorization to execute closing documents for sale of Burlington Telecom to Champlain Broadband LLC, and just a few remarks after a second.
Seconded by Councilor Pine. Councilor Nodell, you have the floor back.
Yes, so this resolution authorizes the mayor to execute some closing documents that implement the asset purchase agreement that the city council approved in late December 2017. Subsequently went to the Public Utility Commission, and the PUC issued the certificates of public good to Champlain, which is a subsidiary of Shores, in February. And the city is committed to executing, under our understanding, the asset purchase agreement. We committed to executing the closing as soon as practicable after the PUC acted. I will hear more from the mayor and from the attorneys, but my own view is that it is of critical importance to the future of Burlington that we move forward with this transaction tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Nodell. Mr. Mayor, did you want to address this?
Thank you, President Wright. I think Councilor Nodell teed it up very well and summarized the relevant history here. I do think this is a moment to welcome the PUC decision. It is one that we had a sizable team working to achieve that outcome for a considerable period of time, and the PUC ruling that came out a couple of weeks ago was both a very clear and strong decision in the city's favor, as well as one that I think puts us in position to move forward and achieve really the goals that the city has been working towards since 2010, when the financial troubles that Burlington Telecom was experiencing became clear. You know, specifically those goals that this ruling put us in position to achieve are the protection of taxpayers from any further liability. One of the things that will happen once the council has made this authorization and we move forward with the closing is that the Citibank will receive their final payment, and the city will finally be released from the $33.5 million lawsuit that has continued to be out there, hovering in abeyance, essentially, waiting for this event to take place. That will finally be fully resolved. We will have protected the fiber optic resources that the city built and has continued to build in recent years, something that was very much in doubt during the most challenging periods of BT's history. We will have succeeded in securing a significant amount of repayment of the $17 million that had been invested directly. There will be millions of dollars that will be repaid to the city, and in addition, we will consolidate and ensure that the city's financial improvement, the 4 credit rating upgrades that have happened since this settlement agreement was secured, which have already resulted in more than $10 million of taxpayer savings, are also preserved and will continue to grow in years ahead. Finally, and I think importantly, this PUC ruling, which included the approval of the full asset purchase agreement, which had a variety of protections for the public and the city in there. The one that I think is a little, maybe underappreciated and maybe the most significant long-term is that the city will retain a veto right on any future transfer of Burlington Telecom in the future, ensuring that if that transfer were to create a telecommunications monopoly, what we had with here in the city prior to the creation of Burlington Telecom, that competition has already been very good for Burlington residents and businesses, and that will be protected and ensured into the foreseeable future as a result of this regulatory approval of the agreement. So while this is a night many years in the making, and we're pleased to be in position to have this decision before the council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do we need any comments from the legal team? Oh, okay. Comments or questions from the council? Councilor Tracy.
Having not voted for the asset purchase agreement and having been pretty strongly opposed to the deal, I feel that I will be voting against this because I feel that it's really just I did not support it. I don't feel like I need to rehash why I didn't do that. I think it's been pretty clear that I thought that the other bidder, Keep Burlington Telecom Local, was the better bid. I understand that I lost that vote, but I feel deeply disappointed that this is kind of where this has ended, and that we'll be, selling to this other company at this point. So I'm deeply disappointed in this, and we'll be voting no.
Thank you, Councilor Tracy. Councilor Pine.
Mr. President, I guess what I would ask to do, the mayor didn't, in his comments, didn't speak to one of the issues that the public continues to, I think, misunderstand for whatever reason, is that the decision to sell Burlington Telecom was made in 2014, and that I believe this council unanimously voted to do that in 2014. So the sale of Burlington Telecom to a private entity actually occurred at that point. I just want to be clear that that was actually the sale of Burlington Telecom. And tonight, we're finalizing the agreement to consummate the sale to the next owner of Burlington Telecom. But in the interim, we have not owned Burlington Telecom. Is that right? Could I just...
Okay, Mr. Mayor.
So, yes, I think Councilor Pine is correct that that transaction in 2014 was both unanimous and significant and really set the table for this final transaction. To expand upon it just a bit further, it was always conceived of as an interim transaction because the city had found it impossible in the years leading up to that to find a final resolution of Burlington Telecom because of all the uncertainty around the numerous steps that have taken us 5 years that needed to take place before the final transaction could be completed, and the concern that many entities had with pursuing that. So what that interim transaction allowed was essentially an entity come in and allow the city to secure a settlement agreement, get the legal crisis under control, and then work deliberately over over a 3-year period of time to find the right long-term steward of these resources. And really, there was no going back in many ways once that decision was made. As maybe this isn't the place to get into the weeds of that, and that could be debated in some ways. But it was a very consequential decision. The one point I think is worth making, and maybe has not been made enough, is even at that point, the city's ownership, if you will, of the Burlington Telecom assets were already quite tenuous in a couple respects. One, the structure of the from the very beginning of Burlington Telecom was such that the city did not originally own all the assets of Burlington Telecom. It was a lease transaction where Citibank essentially owned the assets and leased them back to the city for operation and use. And it was really kind of a lease-to-own vehicle where ultimately, after decades of payments, the city would own the asset. But until then, the assets were owned by a private party right from the start. And so, and then of course, the history is such that it was very challenging. It was impossible for Burlington Telecom in the early years to make those payments, and did not even come close to being able to fulfill the original terms. And so, yes, this council back in 2014 was grappling with that reality, and that is why the decision to make that approval was made, and was made unanimously at the time. And again, yeah, thank you for the opportunity to expand on my original comments, and I think as a kind of further frame of why the fact that we are able to achieve as many goals as we have, given that circumstance, is one that I think this council and the city can be proud of.
Thank you. I just say that I know that process is really difficult. I was fortunate because I sat in those seats when you all decided in 2017. But and I liked and very much supported the idea of keep Burlington Telecom local, and I spoke over and over again in support of it, and hoped to be able to find a way to bring a better, more viable financing plan. In the end, the clock just ran out. We just ran out of time, and we had viable business models on the table that the council had to decide on, and I would be the last person to judge anyone for their vote, whether it was for Schurz or for Ting or for KBTL. I think all those decisions were very difficult, and I just want to acknowledge that I think we're at a critical point in the evolution of this incredibly critical asset, and we did create a world-class telecom system for this community and beyond that will reap benefits for our kids, our grandkids, and many future generations. So I think we should be proud of that.
Thank you for clarifying that important point, Councillor Pine, for the public to hear. Councillor Jang is next, to be followed by Councillor Hartnett, then Shannon.
Thank you. But my question is geared toward the city attorney here a little bit, and it's a very simple one, around the carried interest, right? So it doesn't sound like if we authorize the mayor here to move forward with a sale, we not authorizing the mayor to include any carried interest into the sale, so that the 6 million, maybe whatever we will be getting, we still have the choice to control it, right? Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Thank
The
you.
carried interest, you have a year from the closing to make a decision.
Okay, thank you. And I think, based on my understanding, was new here too, but in 2014, based on research and all that I talked to here with councillors, it was very clear that BT should be sold. We have to sell it. Now, in between, Councillor Hartnett said it very well. So many things happen in between. And I think people like Max Tracy and we fought very hardly to keep it local. Just one example of one local co-op just was here in front of us. So it sounds like we're not there, and we will not be there anymore with this specific asset. But that said, I feel like it is important for us to really give the mayor the power to move forward by giving him the votes to move this forward, and then maybe we have the chance to come together in keeping our assets here moving forward. So tonight I will be voting in support of moving this forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jang. Councillor Hartnett, then Councillor Shannon.
Thank you. Councillor Pine reminded me of everything that we have been through with this. And we sit here in basically a quarter of a full room, and it's kind of ironic that it's a night that we're going to cast, I think, an incredible vote here that I don't think any of us thought we'd ever get to over the years. I can remember sitting here in a packed house up to the rafters when, all the crap hit the fan. And it was some amazing nights here at this council. I've said this before, but I want to say it one more time because this is going to be my last opportunity to say it, that we are fortunate that nearly 4,000 Burlingtonians believed in Burlington Telecom and never left them through all the crap, through all the warnings that they were going to close their doors, and Comcast was stuffing their mailbox in with join us for 3 years for $99 a year, and it was just an incredible time here. And when I look back on it, to think that 4,000 Burlingtonians have allowed us to be here tonight, right, to cast this vote, because that's what it kind of boils down to, right? It was those people that stuck through us that put us in this position tonight to at least come out of this, in somewhat good standing, right? That we're going to receive some of our taxpayer money back. Not all of it, but some of it. But we were so close to closing our doors, right? That the impact that our kids and their grandchildren, that would have never happened, Councilor Pine, that you just brought up, right? If it wasn't for those 4,000 people that kind of stuck together and said, no matter what, we're sticking with Burlington Telecom until they close their doors. And if they close their doors, we're still going to try to turn our TVs on, is what they said basically, right? And it's pretty amazing that they have done that. And so before I cast my vote tonight, I want to give them one more thank you for allowing us to be in this position tonight to make this vote. If it was not for you, this would not be happening and there would be no BT. So thank you to those customers.
Thank you, Councilor Hartnett. And I would just add one thank you to the employees of Burlington Telecom and the management of Burlington Telecom for helping to turn Burlington Telecom around to a success story. As well as Councilor Hartnett said, all the citizens who stuck with it. Councilor Shannon.
Thank you, President Wright. I will say I have been here in the very worst of times with Burlington Telecom and struggled through really profoundly difficult times working through this process. And I think Councilor Pine's point is a really important one, that that we did not own Burlington Telecom. And amazingly, we worked a deal where we were able to direct the sale of Burlington Telecom, and that was a great achievement. Another great achievement that we had along the way was finding a local investor who was willing to take a huge risk to get this deal so that we could be where we are today. I, like Councilor Tracy, I did not vote for this particular bidder, and I was not happy at all with the outcome. But tonight I have to look at not whether or not my favorite thing made it to the end round, but what is in the best interest of the city with my vote tonight. Is it better for the city if I vote no? Will that get my favorite thing? No, it won't. We have decided as a council, with or without my vote, to move forward in this direction. And I do believe that it is in the best interest of the city to finally close this deal and put this chapter behind us. And I really thank all of the people who got us to where we are here tonight. I thank the mayor, the city attorney, and our consulting attorney. And I will be supporting this. And I think that this is clearly in the best interest of the citizens and the city of Burlington. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Shannon. Councilor Mason.
Thank you, President Wright. I view this vote not to build it up, because I view it somewhat as a perfunctory vote. We made the decision in December of 2018 to sell just for the public's benefit. This is not re-upping that decision. This is just authorizing the mayor to execute the ancillary documents that now move forward because of the PUC, because of the PUC approval. A no vote, I don't even think is realistic because voting no would expose us to damages. We have no ability to get out of the deal at this point in time. To also continue sort of the trip down memory lane, because some of us have been here through, all of those votes, and I'm sure, all of us at this table wish that the number that the city was walking away with was higher, and I think there will be members of the public that will feel the same. But I think we have to look at that in light of where I was sitting, and a number of us at this table. Not only was it shutting the doors, but we were facing a $10 of million lawsuit from Citibank with a risk or uncertain risk as to how that was going to turn out. So I think we all need to be cognizant in looking at the final numbers that, we've turned down a potential huge liability that the city could have been on the hook to pay with no surviving entity to a surviving entity walking away with some money, the opportunity to potentially reinvest if that's the direction of the council, and the opportunity to use remaining proceeds, for general fund or for other purposes as this council directs. So while I think it is bittersweet, I sort of, upon further reflection, viewed this as a huge success for the council and the team that had, been assembled to get us to this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mason. I think we're not ready to vote yet. Councilor Busher.
I will be supporting the motion, but I think even though Councilor Mason reminded me that really the action was taken in December, I still find this an incredibly difficult night. I believed in BT. I believed that it was going to cost a lot of money, and yet we didn't know realistically what that upfront cost was. I believed it would have turned the corner, but we couldn't finance the time until it turned the corner. So there were no surprises in the fact that this was an entity that was very desirable. So the sales price didn't surprise me. A lot of what happened didn't surprise me. I agree with Councilor Hartnett that the people of Burlington were committed to having an alternative to Xfinity or Comcast or whatever the entity was called at that time. They wanted choice, they wanted affordability, and so they got that, and hopefully they'll continue to get that as we move forward. I also, like others around the table, wanted somebody else to be the purchaser, but that's not how it worked out. And so I have a heavy heart, even though about this transaction tonight, but that doesn't diminish the effort that was put by all around the table, whether you were part of the BTAB or whatever. I'm well aware that everybody worked really hard, and there are people in the room that really are deserving of a lot of credit who aren't here, the employees and all. So to the citizens of Burlington, I hope that you will understand that this is the best we could do to ensure the continuation of BT and to ensure that there was some money that could be utilized by the city for next steps, and what those will be an evolution and a discussion. So with that, I'm going to stop talking, President Wright, but it's with sadness that I end this conversation.
I understand. Councilor Busher, thank you very much. And Councilor Nodell.
Thank you, President Wright. I just wanted to clarify that just a point of clarification, that the motion to adopt should include that it's the community commitment as amended in our executive session tonight and agreed to by Champlain.
Yes.
Thank you.
Excellent point, Councilor Nodell. Thank you, City Attorney Blackwood. I'm just going to make a really brief remark, and then we're going to have a roll call vote. Just to say that after a long, winding, and sometimes torturous road, it is time to move forward. And I think it's time for the citizens, and it's time for the employees of Burlington Telecom who've been under the gun running this and are looking for certainty on this. So I am eager to see us moving forward on this, and I think it's a good day for Burlington. With that, would the clerk's office please call the roll?
Counselor Bushor,
Yes.
Counselor Dean,
Yes.
Counselor Jing. Yes. Counselor Hartnett,
Yes.
Counselor Nodell,
Yes.
Counselor Mason,
Yes.
Counselor Paul,
Yes.
Counselor Pine,
Yes.
Counselor Roof,
Yes.
Counselor Shannon,
Yes.
Counselor Tracy. No. City Council President Wright,
Yes.
11 ayes, 1 nay.
It passes by a vote of 11 to 1. Item 5.04 has been removed from the agenda. We will move on to item 6, which is committee reports. Any committee chair who would like to report on committee activity to the full council? Councilor Roof.
Really, excuse me. Public Safety Committee, we might try to sneak one meeting in before Organization Day. We do have a lingering issue that does need to be addressed. That's been hard to do scheduling. It's around the city's encampment removal policy that's been in development for some time. We will require 2 meetings, so I think there will be probably if a meeting does occur before Organizational Day, the one have to happen after. I'm not sure what the makeup of that group will look like, but if I'm not involved with that, I'll ensure a clean process. But that is one lingering issue that does need to be addressed, but with the timing of this time of year, it didn't quite happen. So members of that committee, we might try to sneak one in, but if we can't make it happen, then we'll look forward to next year.
Thank you, Councilor Roof. Other committee chairs? Councilor Tracy, then Councilor Hartnett.
So just wanted to report back on our last TUC meeting. We had a very packed agenda where we talked about how we can better get toters rolled out to folks across the city. One of the key aspects of this conversation was, as we head into budget season, to think about really continuing to subsidize those toters and work hard to make sure that we're getting them out. I think we learned a little bit more about the hard work that Bill Ward and his team are doing to get them out, but I think that we need to continue to do that, because I know I think a lot of other councilors hear from constituents that we're getting a lot of windblown trash still around the city, and this is a real benefit when it has been actually implemented. So we need to continue to be on that and vigilant about getting those out, and I think that, should I continue on this committee, that would be something that would continue, but we did address that because it did come to us. Talked a little bit about the Intervale and Intervale Road in particular, and enhancing that moving forward. An alternative to that would create enhanced bike and pedestrian connectivity down that road and make it a little bit safer, as well as addressing some stormwater issues. In addition to that, we did also have a conversation around scooters and the e-scooters at that committee. And we had a number of members of the public come and share their perspectives on it. I think that there were a lot of important points raised around safety, around access, around how this is actually going to play out in Burlington. And it felt like we really wanted to see a little bit of caution as we moved forward with this, that it wasn't a no, but it was definitely a lot of questions and concerns around a number of issues that I hope that we'll continue to work through as we think about doing this in Burlington. So those were some of the issues that we discussed at the last meeting. We do have another meeting scheduled for the 21st at 5:30. One of the aspects that we did want to finish up, given that Councilor Hartnett is leaving us and that he worked hard alongside Councilor Jang and Wright in the New North End about the crosswalks in the New North End, and just putting that sort of in a broader context of pedestrian safety and how much some of those things cost and how we might be able to better enhance crosswalks for pedestrians in the city. So that'll be a key topic in the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Tracy. Councilor Hartnett, to be followed by Councilor Dean.
Just wanted to give an update with PAC. We will be having a final meeting on the 26th, I think Tuesday at 5:30 at Conference Room 12. All departments will be reporting and really kind of giving us an update, such as how Highlight was and moving forward, and then some of the projects that are coming up this spring. And then obviously, I think the big thing with PAC over the last 3 months has really been kind of the newfound life in Moran, right? It's a big story, and it's going to be an ongoing story, and phase 1 is going to be completed, and it looks like we've gotten over those hurdles, and I think that's big, and I think that's going to be just exciting news for the PAC. So there's a lot happening with the PAC, and I wish those well, who I've served on the PAC for, I think, really the last 4 years. It's an incredible committee, and I look forward to staying in touch with that committee and working with the counselors. There's a lot of good things going on. So, but March 26th will be my last PAC meeting at 5:30, Conference Room 12. If you would like to come, it'd be great. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Hartnett. Councilor Dean.
President Wright, thank you. I just wanted to let everyone know that the License and Local Control Committee will be meeting Tuesday afternoon, March 19th at 4:45.
Thank you, Councilor Dean. Any other councilor committee chair? Hearing none, we'll move to item number 7. That's city councilors on general city affairs. Councilor Busher.
So I'm sure everyone noticed the youth art out in the lobby, and I did too. But there was one picture that was very sobering. It was a young artist, and it's a picture of a girl, and she's crying, and it has a statement saying there's an announcement that there's a lockdown, and then there's a caption with her saying, "I don't feel safe." And it was a very sobering picture, and I looked at that, and I just felt so helpless in today's world and trying to keep children safe. There's a lot of wonderful art out there, and I'm not trying to make everyone depressed, but it just was so sobering and just brought home the reality of how children go to school and how what's happening in our world is impacting them on a daily basis. And this one child found the courage to express it in drawing. But I encourage you all to look at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Busher. Councilor Hartnett.
Kind of keeping with the school theme, and I just appreciate what a great job our school district does in keeping our kids safe, really, for the most part. And we're very fortunate to live here, right? And we have a great district, and with food security and so many other things that our schools, really, there's a lot more to safety when you think about that. And hunger is one of them, and we've just done an incredible job in our schools. It's really, it's one of the best assets we have in this city, probably in the state of Vermont, really, is our public school. That being said, I would like to thank School Commissioner Mark Barlow for his years of service in the North District, who will be leaving. I think tomorrow night's his last meeting. He's been an incredible school commissioner. It's been probably the most difficult time to be on the school board over the last 4 or 5 years. Although, the last couple of years they've done great work, and I think they've come a long ways. It's been a challenge, and particularly when you have kids in school, that go to the district. I know it's been difficult for him. Nobody has given more time and effort as a school commissioner, and has fought hard for the kids that go to our public school district, and he truly is going to be missed. We have a great replacement, but for me, campaigning with Mark, and he taught me so much about the Burlington district and the value of passing a school budget. It was amazing going door to door with him. I'll never forget that. And since that time, 4 years ago, going door to door with him, I have clearly had a different outlook on the public school district, and he's really made a difference. And you can't say that every single time when a school commissioner serves, but you can say it for Mark Barlow. He's an incredible commissioner, and we're going to miss him. So thanks, Mark, for your service.
Thank you, Councilor Hartnett. Councilor Paul.
Thanks. I just wanted, well, first of all, wanted to wish everybody a happy Daylight Savings Day. I hope everybody appreciated the fact that it's 6:30 tonight. It was broad daylight, and I don't know about all of you, but I sort of like that. Yes, it was late. It was dark this morning, but I'm big on light at the end of the day. It does remind me, and certainly today's weather reminded me, that we're almost coming into spring. And so I have a request of either the administration, or I'll speak through you, President Wright. When the team from Brookfield Asset Management was here, we had requested a monthly update on what was happening with City Place. That was in that was in January. We did not get one in February, so I'm asking for one in March, and would hope that at our next council meeting, we would have a full update on where we stand with City Place and the upcoming construction. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Paul. I know that an update is planned. Any other Councilor? Councilor Jang.
So I wanted to say this one is directly to the mayor, because the stickers you created for the votes that has the city's flag, I think that was a great innovation. Thank you for doing that. And the report also was really well put. I think it's incredible. But now next, let's say to the community who really showed up, leaving everything that you've been doing to show up and vote. And I think that's what it takes. And the turnout was not that great, but I think next time around we can do even better. But the second thing that I wanted to talk about is about the e-bikes coming here and the e-scooters. I think many people are concerned about that aspect. Many people. From Ward 8 to Ward 1 to the New North End, many people express so much concern. And I think none of them are against it, but they just wanted to see some level of safety first. What we're gonna do if anything happens before we bring them into town. I really do hope that the administration, currently specifically the mayor, is working on that aspect. Let's have safety, because we know we talked about the Vision Zero that was voted by the council, but it's not implemented. And yet we have e-bikes coming here and many people concerned, especially those who are older and who just walk all the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Jang. Any other councilor? All right, we'll conclude item number 7. Item number 8, Council President update. Not too much here. Just next meeting on March 25th, our last meeting together, is going to be a busy meeting. We'll be here later than we will be tonight, so be prepared for that. Thank you, Councilor Paul, for mentioning that update that is needed, and I know that I met with Mayor Weinberger last week, and we had discussed that, but thank you for reminding us about that. I did want to just mention, since Councilor Tracy mentioned this, that particularly as a New North End councilor, that the Board of Finance tonight did pass the 5 crosswalks, and we actually passed it tonight on the consent agenda, that the 5 crosswalks in the New North End will be being installed, and the work will begin in April. With that, turn it over to the mayor to bring us home.
Great, thank you, President Wright, and thank you for the comments from councilors. I will speak to a couple of them in my remarks. First of all, I do want to note Andrew Krebs from BCA was the one who kind of ran with a suggestion that the I voted stickers be updated, and hopefully now that those have been shown all around town, maybe voter turnout will even go up in future elections. I know something councilors hear a lot about, certainly I hear a lot about this time of year, and hearing a lot about now, particularly this winter, is the condition of the roads. I enjoyed when dropping off my daughter at childcare this morning, having to maneuver around a DPW truck that was filling potholes. We have crews out there every day right now. If you are, I would say to the public and to counselors, if you have questions or want to alert our crews to particularly bad potholes, know there are a lot of them. There are a number of ways to do that. You can do that on the DPW website. You can call DPW. You can use the C-Click Fix app, which is increasingly a way that people communicate with the city, and that we are as responsive as we can to. And I also would encourage people, if you kind of want to understand more about the process that goes into patching the roads on a short-term basis, there's actually a couple videos up on the DPW Facebook page, which show some information about that process. And then looking ahead a little bit more long-term, one of the other things that took place on the Board of Finance agenda tonight, and I believe on the concurrent consent agenda, was the sidewalk budget for and the sidewalk repair plan for 2019 construction period was also passed, endorsed unanimously at the Board of Finance, and this will be the third year in a row that we will be reinvesting in our sidewalks at historically high levels, as well as in our streets. And the DPW's construction portal, where you can go and see which sidewalks are planned to be worked on this summer in terms of long stretches of sidewalk, can be found on that portal. And you can also see what has been done in recent years and what is planned for future years. It's a very dynamic, kind of interactive page if you've never checked it out. Thank you, Councilor Busher, for pointing out the artwork that is in the hallway and the atrium outside Contoys. This is really one of the fun times of the year to visit City Hall and see the work of our fourth graders in our schools. It's pretty remarkable. BCA has organized this event for many years now, and it involves working with all the art teachers in our different elementary schools, and all of those teachers and most of the principals and dozens of fourth graders and their families will be with us here in this room tomorrow from 5:30 until about 7 o'clock. And it really, it's really one of the great events, one that I look forward to every year. And the artwork will be on display for the next couple weeks for anyone who wants to come check it out. And I think you'll be impressed by it. It is always pretty remarkable that this is what our fourth graders create. I want to look ahead to a couple other events that speak to, I think, issues of the day and that we're grappling with. One is the Opioid Epidemic Town Hall meeting that will be taking place here in Contoys on March 19th, a week from tomorrow, from 6 to 8 p.m. This is really, we've done these opioid events in the past. It's been a couple years since we've done one of them as a city, and a lot has happened with the opioid epidemic and the local effort in the time since then. We also, at this event, are fortunate to have three, truly unusual national experts with us that we will have a chance to talk with and have panel discussion with and hear presentations from and ask questions. Gil Kurlikowski, who was America's drug czar from 2009 to 2014 before becoming the head of U.S. Customs and Border Patrol in the Obama administration, and who will be here. Fred Ryan, who's a former chief of police at Arlington, Massachusetts, and has gone on to become one of the country's leading law enforcement experts and what local and small and mid-sized police departments can do in response to the opioid epidemic. And Dr. Josh Sharfstein, who is a professor of public health and a vice dean at Johns Hopkins School of Public Health, and he is the author of the forthcoming book, The Opioid Epidemic, What Every American Needs to Know, and has been very helpful directly to the city of Burlington in helping to craft many of the interventions that we have been pursuing over the last couple of years. So all three of them will be here giving presentations and then being part of a larger panel that will include local leaders in the opioid epidemic as well. And there's a Facebook event posted on this, which is a great way to RSVP and let us know if we should expect you. We'd love to see you here. And then finally, kind of on point with discussions a couple councilors have raised about where we're headed with this e-scooter conversation and other elements of alternative transportation. We are bringing back, for the first time in a while, we're going to convene a mayor's book group discussion in April 17th. The book is going to be Street Fight by Jeanette Sadek Khan, and the books are available now both in the mayor's office and at the Fletcher Free Library. The books are free, paid for by the UVM Humanities Center. And, you know, the idea with this partnership with the Humanities Center has been for us to kind of have a different kind of discussion about the issues of the day, and I think this is very much fits that. Jeanette Sadek Khan, for people who don't know, has really been one of the kind of leading voices in alternative transportation and pursued that very aggressively in New York City when she served as a transportation commission there. It's a very interesting and in some ways provocative book, and I think will make for a really good discussion about alternative transportation as we engage e-scooters and other issues going forward. So with that, President Wright, I think that's all I have.
Well, you're not done yet, Mr. Mayor.
Uh-oh.
You need to reconvene the Board of Finance
yes,
meeting.
good point.
In order to recess this.
I didn't know if I'd missed opening day or something for a moment there. But you're quite right, President Wright. So with that, well, you, I think, President Wright, need to suspend the city council meeting or adjourn it, or how would you like to?
We need to, City Attorney Black, we need to suspend the city council meeting?
No, just adjourn it.
Just adjourn. So we move to
Adjourn.
Councilor Shannon's moved to adjourn. Councilor Roof seconds. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We have adjourned the city council meeting, and Mr. Mayor.
And now, without objection, we will both reconvene.